Right now on Good Morning America First Look, U.S. forces seize an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, a major escalation of tensions in the Caribbean. Our experts discuss what's behind this move and the U.S. military preparations underway. President Trump warning Colombia could be targeted next. A flooding emergency in the Northwest, tens of thousands told to prepare to evacuate, while in the Midwest, a snow emergency and deadly accident at a major airport. Caught on camera, officials say an American citizen is wrongfully arrested by immigration agents, tackled in a restaurant stairwell. A bombshell in college football. The head coach at one of the sport's marquee programs is fired, then sent to jail. Plus, the shocking mishap during this skydiving jump. A man is flung from the plane. A rare pregnancy that came as a surprise to a California woman. How her baby overcame tremendous odds. The Powerball jackpot rising yet again, leading to billion-dollar dreams. And the heroes who saved an elderly man trapped in his sinking car, the handy tool that saved his life.
From ABC News, this is Good Morning America First Look.
Good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm Hannah Battah.
I'm Sophie Flay. We begin with a major escalation in U.S. tensions with Venezuela. We're learning more about why U.S. forces seized an oil tanker off the Venezuelan coast.
President Trump releasing video of the moment while also warning Venezuela's neighbor Colombia that it could soon be the target of the U.S. actions. This morning, Venezuela responding after U.S. forces seized an oil tanker off the Venezuelan coast. Video released by the Trump administration shows the moment U.S. Navy helicopters hovered above the tanker as heavily armed Coast Guard members rappelled to the deck.
We've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening.
This is the first time President Trump has overtly targeted Venezuela's oil exports.
Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserve in the world, so it's $14 trillion worth of oil, and it's a primary means of the regime funding. So if this is just the start, and of course, it was leaving to go to Cuba, which means it was likely full. So it is a significant escalation. But this might be the start of a campaign.
The president saying the U.S. may now confiscate the oil on board.
Well, we keep it, I guess.
Venezuela's government calls the seizure a blatant theft and an act of international piracy. But Attorney General Pam Bondi says the tanker was used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran and is part of an illicit oil shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations.
This is basically funding terrorism. This vessel was sanctioned for its role in helping to fund terrorism. So all of these things have come to a head here in and around Venezuela.
The seizure of the tanker comes after the U.S. military conducted at least 22 airstrikes on alleged drug smuggling boats, killing nearly 90 people. The White House insisting the strikes are lawful, arguing the U.S. is engaged in a formal armed conflict with drug cartels and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Trump recently saying this about Maduro.
His days are numbered.
Military experts say the U.S. now has assets in place in the region to conduct sustained military operations in Venezuela. But back in Washington, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle voicing concerns about a potential conflict.
I can't even imagine that the American people will have any appetite for yet another forever war.
President Trump recently suggested possible land strikes inside Venezuela as well.
Widespread flooding has prompted a statewide emergency in Washington state, where some residents north of Seattle were told to evacuate immediately. 75,000 people in low-lying areas were told to prepare to leave. The governor says the next few days will be critical. A landslide also trapped several cars along Interstate 90. Meanwhile, in the upper Midwest, a snow emergency is in effect in the Twin Cities, where a pedestrian was killed by a snowplow at the Minneapolis airport. A few more inches of snow are expected today before another blast of Arctic air. We'll have your forecast in just a few moments.
The head of the NTSB is sounding the alarm about a new proposal in Congress. She says it would make flying less safe. Her remarks came during a fiery news conference. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio has the details. Nicole, good morning.
Well, Hannah, good morning. In a rare move, the head of the NTSB is attacking members of Congress, claiming a new bill will put the flying public in danger in the crowded skies over the nation's capital.
This morning, the chair of the National Transportation Safety Board speaking out, slamming a defense bill being considered by Congress that she says will make flying in and out of Washington, D.C. more dangerous.
If it sounds like I'm mad, I am mad. This is shameful.
Jennifer Hamady says the NTSB vehemently opposes part of the bill that would roll back safety improvements recommended after last January's mid-air collision of a military helicopter and an American Airlines regional jet near Reagan National Airport. 67 people were killed in that crash.
It reverses safety changes made after the mid-air collision and essentially gives the military unfettered access to the crowded and complex D.C. airspace. This is a significant safety setback.
In the wake of that tragedy, military aircraft were required to broadcast their position using a technology known as ADS-B. But Hamady warns the new defense bill would allow exemptions to that policy.
We should be working together in partnership to prevent the next accident, not inviting history to repeat itself.
Families of the crash victims call the proposed exemptions deeply concerning. But supporters say military chopters on training missions would still be required to warn other aircraft about their position or get a waiver from the Transportation Secretary.
And the defense bill now heads to the Senate, where some lawmakers have suggested they'll push for changes. Sophie.
Nicole, thank you. Today's an important day for people worried about their health insurance premiums rising next year. Today, senators are expected to vote on two proposals to address the issue. Democrats want to extend Obamacare tax credits for another 3 years to keep premiums from skyrocketing next month. Republicans, who say Obamacare is wasteful, want to deposit that money into personal health savings accounts. But right now, it looks like neither plan has enough support to pass, and those Obamacare tax credits expire in 3 weeks.
In Southern California, police say a car plowed into a high school running team. The driver was arrested, accused of driving under the influence. 8 members of the Anaheim High School running team were hit. 3 of the teens' injuries are described as serious.
Now to Minnesota, where officials say a U.S. citizen was wrongfully arrested during the ongoing immigration crackdown. We're now hearing from the man who was targeted.
I feel like I was getting assaulted. I was getting kidnapped.
A Minneapolis man is speaking out after he says he was arrested by immigration agents despite being a U.S. citizen with no criminal record. The 20-year-old Somali American who gave only his first name, Mubashir, says he was confronted by ICE during his lunch break and was pushed inside the stairwell of this restaurant.
I was even outside for mere seconds before I seen a masked person running at me full speed. He tackled me. I told him I'm a U.S. citizen. What is going on? He didn't seem to care.
He says the agents denied his numerous attempts to show them his passport. He was detained for several hours and later released after his identity was verified.
You can't tackle somebody because they look Somali without knowing who they are, what their name is.
ICE has not commented on the incident, but defends its ongoing operation in Minneapolis, saying it's focused on removing the, quote, worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens. The confrontation with Mubashir is one of several volatile incidents in recent days. Agents were seen here pepper spraying a crowd blocking their vehicles. Protesters elsewhere are taking a different approach. This church in Massachusetts is displaying a nativity, replacing Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus with a sign reading, ICE was here. The Boston Archdiocese has ordered the controversial nativity be removed, but local parish leaders say it will stay up until further dialogue with the Archdiocese.
Back in Minnesota, the governor is now asking Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem to review ICE operations in Minneapolis.
Well, if you've got billion-dollar dreams, Saturday's Powerball drawing is for you. That's because there were no jackpot winners in last night's $935 million drawing. Saturday's grand prize will be just the 14th time in history that a Powerball or Mega Millions jackpot has reached $1 billion.
Time now for your Thursday weather.
Hey, good morning, Sophie and Hannah. Happy Thursday. We are still watching the threat for river flooding in western Washington. A few more inches of rain possible there as our next Clipper system takes a dive of snow from the Dakotas into the Midwest for today. We're opening the door for some intense cold heading toward the weekend in the Northeast. It looks like the southern half of the country dry and sunny as we head into your Thursday. We're watching for wind chills sub-zero in the upper Midwest as we move toward Friday, so make sure the winter coats are handy. In New York, I'm meteorologist Danny Beckstrom for ABC News.
Coming up, a 10-year-old jumps from a moving vehicle to escape a carjacker.
Also ahead, a prominent college football coach taken into police custody after being fired. Those details breaking overnight.
And the new change President Trump is proposing for national parks. A terrifying ordeal for a 10-year-old near New Orleans. This video, part of a police investigation, shows the boy jumping out of that stolen SUV. He was in the back seat with the engine running when the carjacker got in and drove off. The boy's cell phone was left behind and helped police track down the suspect.
Now to the bombshell in college football involving the former head coach at one of the sport's marquee programs.
Just hours after he was fired for an alleged inappropriate relationship, a shocking development overnight involving former University of Michigan coach Sharon Moore. ESPN reports he was taken into police custody outside Ann Arbor last night in connection with an alleged assault. Police in the town of Pittsfield saying they responded to an address for the purposes of investigating an alleged assault, but they did not name Moore and no charges were announced. ABC affiliate WXYZ, citing online records, reports the address is believed to be where a university staff member lives.
It went from being a football story at about 4 o'clock to being a much more serious story than that.
Earlier in the day, the university fired 39-year-old Moore, saying, quote, credible evidence was found that Coach Moore engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Moore is married with 3 daughters.
This is something that's been percolating at Michigan for the last couple weeks. There was initial flurry of speculation and an early investigation that died down toward the end of the regular season. There had been a lot of uneasiness on the Michigan staff. Sources had told me Sharon Moore had been acting strange, berating assistant coaches, not acting in a normal way.
It's just the latest scandal to rock the Michigan football program. Earlier this year, former offensive coordinator Matt Weiss was indicted on federal charges, accused of hacking and stealing the private and intimate images of thousands of student athletes at multiple universities. He's pleaded not guilty. The program was also marred by recruiting and sign-stealing scandals during the tenure of former coach Jim Harbaugh, who's now the head coach of the NFL's Los Angeles Chargers. Moore himself has already served a multiple-game suspension in connection with those scandals.
So far, there's been no public response for Moore on these latest developments. Michigan will have an interim coach as it prepares for the Citrus Bowl.
An environmental group is suing the Trump administration over plans to put the president's face on a pass being sold at national parks. The group calls the move unlawful, accusing the administration of turning the annual pass into a partisan political platform. No comment from the White House.
Coming up, cows on the loose after a crash on the highway.
Also ahead, a rare pregnancy that came as a surprise to a California woman, how her baby overcame tremendous odds. We're back with a chaotic scene on Interstate 70 east of Kansas City. More than a dozen cows escaped after the truck they were being transported in crashed. Cowboys were brought in to control the animals. The road was reopened hours later with several cows still on the run.
2 Florida deputies are being hailed as heroes for rescuing an elderly man from a sinking car. The man accidentally drove into a retention pond and the water was up to his neck by the time officers got to him. One deputy credits a handy tool he had with him.
I get my window breaker, I keep it in my door panel. We approached the vehicle, ended up, upon impact, we initially broke the window because at first we couldn't get the door open. We made entry to the door, and then after that, we were able to retrieve the subject.
The deputies saying it was all in a day's work.
Now to a rare pregnancy that came as a surprise to a California woman whose baby overcame tremendous odds.
This morning, what's being described as a medical miracle, a baby defying all odds after an unexpected and rare abdominal pregnancy. Baby Ryu's birth came just days after his mother learned she was pregnant.
Every day is a gift, and I'm never going to waste it.
Susie Lopez, a nurse in Bakersfield, California, took a routine pregnancy test before a procedure to remove a 20-pound ovarian cyst that had been growing for years.
Sure enough, after 17 years of not being pregnant, not having regular periods, it was a positive pregnancy test.
She soon started to experience pain in her abdomen, so she and her husband rushed to the hospital.
As soon as we got in, they checked her in and the rest is history.
Doctors ordered an MRI and were stunned.
It was the baby growing in her abdomen behind the mass that was pushing everything out. So that's the reason she didn't know she was pregnant.
It was profound to see this full-term baby sitting behind a very large ovarian tumor not in the uterus. So this was confirmed as an abdominal pregnancy, which is obviously a very extreme event.
Susie had what's known as an abdominal ectopic pregnancy, which is rare and life-threatening for both the mother and fetus. It took a team of 30 to undertake the surgery of removing the cyst and delivering her baby. He weighed 8 pounds and is in remarkably good health.
God gave me this baby so that he could be an example to the world that God exists, that modern-day miracles still happen.
They say Ryu is the answer to their years of praying for a second child.
Coming up, a skydiving mishap. You won't believe what happened to one man jumping out of a plane.
Plus, singer Jelly Roll gets emotional, learning some big news about his career. Time to check the pulse. We begin with dramatic video of a skydive gone wrong.
This is one big oh no for me. Officials in Australia released these images showing a skydiver being flung from that plane. His parachute then wraps around a wing 15,000 feet in the air. He's left dangling as other skydivers jumped, but the trapped diver eventually managed to cut himself free with a knife, releasing a second parachute to land safely.
Next, the Trump administration picking a fight over fonts.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio is making the State Department go back to using the Times New Roman typeface on all official papers. This reverses the Biden administration's switch to Calibri font, which was recommended by diversity and disability groups, saying that font's easier to read. Now, Rubio calls it a wasteful example of DEI.
The designer of Calibri font says it was created to be legible on small screens, and he doesn't know what's woke about it. He calls Rubio's decision hilarious. Next, singer Jelly Roll brought to tears.
Yeah, he made his debut at the Grand Ole Opry 4 years ago, and while talking to Joe Rogan yesterday, Jelly Roll got a huge surprise, all thanks to an old friend.
To say Jelly Roll, you're officially invited to become a member of the Grand Ole Opry. It's an honor to say welcome to the family, brother.
That's country singer Craig Morgan inviting Jelly Roll to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry. Such a sweet moment there. Jelly Roll said it was actually Morgan's music that helped him through his time in prison, and he says he even cried watching Morgan perform at the Opry. And finally, big money for the first glimpse of Star Wars.
The painting that introduced the franchise in 1977 has sold at auction for nearly $4 million, the most ever paid for Star Wars memorabilia. It was reproduced as the movie's poster. We'll check your top headlines next. Checking more top stories, Venezuela says U.S. forces seizing this oil tanker off the Venezuelan coast is an act of international piracy and blatant theft. The Trump administration says the tanker was carrying sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran and is part of an oil shipping network that supports foreign terrorist groups.
President Trump has launched the Trump Gold Card, offering fast-track legal status to immigrants willing to pay $1 million. Companies can also buy the card for $2 million to hire skilled immigrants. The Gold Card website is now accepting applications with a $15,000 processing fee.
10 more cases of infant botulism are now being linked to recalled baby formula from ByHeart. At least 51 infants have been hospitalized. Investigators are now looking for more possible cases dating back to the product's launch in 2022.
Today's weather, more rain in the northwest where flooding could force thousands to evacuate, and snow possible from the Dakotas to Minnesota and Illinois.
And finally, happy birthday to a special veteran.
He's turning 100 and he spoke to Danny New.
I was on an attack transport ship.
You may remember our story from almost 2 years ago with World War II veteran Arthur Grabiner.
When you see this ship, do all the memories come flooding back?
Yes, it does.
We spoke aboard the USS Intrepid, a decommissioned aircraft carrier in New York where, to this day, this retired naval hero still volunteers monthly.
So Intrepid had over
3,500.
Answering questions about a global conflict without many witnesses left.
I figure it's a duty that I owe this generation.
Well, we have an update for you.
Happy birthday, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Today, Arthur turns 100 years old. Arthur spent his last day in the double digits at the home of his beloved New York Mets, donating 3 winter coats to an annual coat drive that he and his son Doug attend every year.
It was great. They every aisle they honored us in, and it was wonderful.
Arthur is still volunteering frequently. In fact, next week he'll be presenting to more than 500 8th graders as he continues his mission to tell folks specifically about his experience as a naval veteran of the Pacific Theater. He always recalls one question he received from a young man.
He says, I never knew there was a war in the Pacific. Well, that struck something in my brain. Why doesn't he know?
In other words, even as he hits the century mark, here's the answer you get when you ask Arthur if he plans on slowing down.
Here I am, going on to my 100th birthday and beyond.
So guys, for the big 100th today, Arthur is set to celebrate with the Regiment of Midshipmen at the United States Merchant Marine Academy on New York's Long Island. And then this Saturday, he is all about that Army-Navy game.
Thanks, Danny, and happy birthday to Arthur. That's your Good Morning America First Look.
Have a great day.